Hi, this is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments, and I wanted to take a minute and do a quick instructional video on this tool. This is our Creative Memory Circle Cutter, and if you're like a lot of CM customers, you probably are wondering, well, if I have the custom cutting system, which is this system over here, why do I need the circle cutter? And I just wanted to go ahead and kind of explain some of its intricacies, as an advisor who's a good friend of mine had shared this, the tips I'm going to share with you today a long time ago when this tool first came out, which was earlier last year. And she reminded me of them recently, and so I thought, I probably should share this because I think a lot of people don't realize that this would make their life so much easier, and they can do some fantastic things with this tool if they just understood it better. So I thought I'd do a quick video and help you out. Well, our custom cutting system is fantastic, and you can do circles and circles and ovals and squares, rectangles, and some gem type shapes, which are fantastic. We even have some jumbo patterns that you can use, and the old CM had several jumbo patterns, so if you can find those on In Search Of sites, some of those are really fun to use, and it is a great system. Don't get me wrong, I use it all the time. But if you want to make a circle that's as big as a 12 by 12 and you don't have that jumbo circle cutter, this will do it. It will make a circle just about 12 inches. It doesn't quite hit 12 inches, but it is really, really close. And it will go all the way down to 3 inches. So you do still need your custom cutting system if you want to make a circle that is smaller than 3 inches, like the inside of this particular template or the inside of this particular template. Those would be much smaller than 3 inches. So you do still need this for those type of cuts. But what we're going to do today is show you some of the fun things that you can do with this that you cannot do with that. So if you have the circle cutter, go ahead and get it out, and I'm going to show you some great things that you can do with it. If you have one of our dual tip pens, I'm going to show you some cool things you can do with that and in using the circle cutter. So go ahead and get that out, but just set it aside for now. I'm going to even set my circle cutter aside, and the most important element on this tabletop right now is my sticky notes, which might seem kind of funny, but for this process, your sticky notes are going to be your best friend. So let me show you really quick. You're going to need a 3x3 sticky note, and you're going to need a ruler. I have my zero centering ruler from Creative Memories right here, so I'm going to use that, and a pen or a pencil, something that's going to write dark enough that you can see it. You're going to take your ruler and draw a line from corner to corner, and then from the other corner to the other corner. So here we go. One line right there, and another line right here. And it doesn't bother me that I'm getting ink on my paper underneath me because it's just kind of a throwaway piece of cardstock, so I'm not worried about that. So we've got our crisscross lines. Now we're going to turn it slightly, and we're going to use our ruler, and we're going to measure from the center line forward 1.25 inches. So I'm going to look at my edge right here, and I'm going to go 1 inch and 1/4 inch. It's the line just before the line with all my numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in each direction. So I'm going to go ahead and line my 1.25 inch mark, the 1.25 inch from this edge of my ruler in. I'm going to line that up with my center line that I wrote on my sticky note. So right here where my pen is pointing, that's what I'm lining up. That's where the pen mark is that I made, and that's my 1.25 mark from this edge. Okay, And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and draw a line on my sticky note across the little tip of the sticky note down here. Can you see that? So I have 1 1/4 inches from this point, which is my center point, to this point where I drew my 1 1/4 mark. Okay? That's important because we want this to be lined up in the center of our paper. And that's because once we start using this, if it gets moved, we want to be able to find our center place again and not tear our hair out and go crazy. Isn't that worthwhile to learn this tip? Okay, so I'm going to line my paper up here on my 10-inch mark on my grid that's on my desk. If you have a mat, one of our 13 by 13 mats that are so fantastic, that would be great to use. I'm going to go ahead and use my my 0 centering ruler to find 6 inches from where I have it here. So 6 inches is going to be at this line right here. All right. And I already know that this is going to be my center mark. Okay, so I'm going to take my sticky note and I'm going to line it up so that my center line, my vertical line, is lined up with my 0 on my ruler, and my horizontal line is lined up with the edge of my ruler right here. Okay, and then I'm going to stick it down. Move my ruler, stick it down. All right. Now, why 1 1/4 inches? I hear people asking in my head. Okay, so the 1 1/4 inches, and the reason we have this sticky note on here is so that if your paper should shift or you should move this out of habit of, getting your tools off your workspace, you can always come back and make more cuts on your paper, and you're going to see why in just a minute. But let me take just a quick side note and just review this tool a little bit with you. Okay, so this tool is designed, like I said, to make circles, concentric circles from a size as small as 3 inches up to nearly 12 inches wide. It does, on one side of the ruler, it has, I hope you can see that, one side of the ruler in the white, it has inch markings that are designated every 2/10 of an inch with a line. And you know that this is your inch mark because if you look over here, you see where it says inch, and you see a very cute little diagram that shows your blade. Okay, that's important to note because right above these white markings are some black markings that you can see there. And those markings indicate where your pen line will go because you can draw circles with this tool. And you know to use the black lines to indicate your size of your pen markings by this icon over here, which is a little cute little picture of a pen. All right. Then if you flip this tool over, if you are a centimeter person, you can see that it is also in here or written on the tool in centimeters on this side for the cutting measurements. All right. Another important feature is this black line right here that is magnified, and that is where you can line up your blade or your center marks. Sorry, not your blade, your center marks. And that line is on both sides of the tool as well. All right, this tool operates off of a pivot point, which you will find on the bottom of the tool. And you'll notice it's right here in the center, this little metal point right here. That's not going to harm your paper. It is kind of sharp if you put your finger on it, but it does not poke through your paper when you go to use it. This footing that goes around here is rubber, and that when you anchor your paper down, this is what touches your paper, this rubber foot right here. and it keeps everything nice and still, which is good. And then still lets the blade rotate. This is your blade right here. And when you depress the blade, it pops out, but it only pops out just a teeny tiny bit. Can you see how tiny that blade is right there? Very, very small. All right, so just like our blades with our 12-inch trimmer, this blade is very difficult to depress, and I can, when it's not in use, I can run my finger over the top and I'm not going to get injured. Same goes for your toddler. If they should get a hold of this tool, they're not going to hurt themselves, because it does take a bit of coordination to use it and to deploy that blade. All right, so turning it back over, you'll notice a big blue button here and a white sort of dial underneath it. The dial is what anchors your pivot point in its specific position. So you turn it righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, all right? And then you can move your pivot point to make your circles bigger or smaller. It just simply slides right up and down the tool. When you find the size that you want, then you just tighten it down, and then it won't move anymore. All right? When you go to cut your circle, you're going to push down on this blue button, and that's going to depress the pivot, the rubber foot that's down here, and anchor your circle cutter so that you can swing it around easily and make your cuts. To make your cuts, you're going to push this white button in on this knob on the left, and as you push that white button in, you're also going to push this blue button. Sorry, I've got my finger on two blue buttons. So you push this white button in, then you depress this blue button down, and that is what pushes the blade out of this housing. So you have to be able to hold this down to anchor the tool, and then push this in and push this button down to turn the mechanism around on your paper. You'll see in just a second what I mean. If you should ever need to change the blade in this, there's a handy button right here that you just push down, and it swings this little door open, and here's your blade, and then your blade just pops right out. Sure it does. Just pops right out, just like that. It is just that tiny, like I was saying a minute ago, and very, very easy to replace if you should ever have to replace it, but they do last a very, very long time. So I've never replaced mine, and I've had this for at least a year. All right, so let's cut some circles. All right, so we're gonna start with the biggest circle we can make. So I'm gonna loosen this up, and I'm gonna slide this all the way down as far as I can. And it's going to slide down to just past the 11.8 mark on our ruler. Okay, so we're going to tighten this up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this black line, which you can see right here in this bubble. The black line in the bubble is going to line up with my vertical line on my sticky note that's already on my cardstock down here. And the front edge of my trimmer is going to line up with this shorter line that we drew at 1 1/4 inches from our center mark. All right, and by doing that, each time we put our cutter on our piece of paper, we are going to be able to cut perfect circles. Let me show you. So I'm going to push this down. I've got my black line right on this, lining up with my center mark right here. I've got the front of my cutter lining up with that short line that I drew across the tip of my sticky note. So I'm going to push this down, then I'm going to squeeze this and slide it gently around my page. This really doesn't take a lot of muscle. Even if you're using cardstock, which this is a heavy-duty piece of cardstock, it's one of our one of our pieces of cardstock that we use in the front of our paper packs. And so it's a thick piece of cardstock, and you'll see I didn't use much pressure at all. All right, so this is the largest circle that it will make. And you can see it is just shy of 12 inches. This gold line right here would be 12 inches. So about 11 3/4, roughly. A little bit more than 11 3/4. So you can see right there. All right, so almost 11 7/8. So now let's say we want to make a 11-inch circle. We're going to loosen this up, slide our ruler down to 11 inches so that the black line right here is on the 11-inch mark on our ruler, on the white ruler. All right. Then you'll notice I lifted my tool. I don't know about you, but I am really in the habit of lifting my tools off when I'm done with a cut. And so we need to go ahead and put this back down. And because we've got our sticky note on here, I'm just going to line that black line up again with my center mark and the front of my tool on this short line right here. And it's going to line up perfectly. You just watch. So I've got it where I want it. I'm going to push this down, squeeze the white button in, and push down the blue button. Swing the arm around. All right, and there we have a 1/2-inch circle. Now, you might be wondering, since we moved this from the 12 to the 11, from almost to the 12 to the 11, why did we only get a 1/2-inch circle? Some of you are probably really good at math and you already know this, but let me just clue you in as to why this is the case. All right, if you want the width of your ring to be a full inch wide, then you must move this in 2 inches from your outside cut. So this circle now is an 11-inch circle. Let me just move this in so you can see this is an 11-inch circle. All right. Now I'm going to let's make a 1-inch wide ring. So I'm going to move my dial, my marker, in to the 9. So it's set on 11 right now. I'm going to move it to the 9. And that's going to allow me to take an inch off of this side and an inch off of this side. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So I want a full inch on either side in my ring. So I have to take 2 inches off of my marker here. So again, I'm going to line that black mark, the black line up with my vertical line here and my front of my trimmer with my short line here. Depress my foot, squeeze and depress my blade, and swing around. And there we've got a 1-inch circle. My nails get the better of me so many times, guys. All right, here we go. There. So here we have a 1-inch wide circle versus our 1/2-inch circle. And we can keep making circles that will fit inside each other all the way down to 3 inches. However, there is a little bit of a trick to making a 3-inch circle. You have to make sure your blade button is turned and out of the way so that you can slide your ruler as far as you can and then lock it in place. and then you'll be right at the 3-inch mark. If this button is, you can see if it's right here in the center, this button's going to be in the way and prevent you from sliding this as far as you need to go in order to make 3 inches. But let me show you real quick how that's done. So again, we line up the black line with our center mark, the front of my trimmer with my with the line that I drew across the front tip of my sticky. Squeeze in, push down on the blade. We're going to go as far around as my coordination will let me, which is kind of a little bit at a time with this small of a circle. And the cool thing about this circle maker too is you can go backwards and just ensure that you've made your cut as many times as you want to, and it's not going to give you a hard time. You'll still get a clean cut out of it. All right, so here is my 3-inch circle in the center here. All right, so that is a great, that shows you what a great tool this little sticky note can be, and it's really, really important in being able to build these concentric circles and keep them even. Now, you may have seen some pages that are done where people have drawn some really pretty incredible circles on their page. Let me show you how that is done. For that, I need another piece of paper. So here we've got a clean piece of paper, and I'm just going to move my measurement sheet just out of reach just a little bit. Get my other things out of the way. All right, so when you're using a Creative Memories marker, and it only works, as far as I know, I may be wrong, but I believe it only works with Creative Memories dual tip marking pens. You're going to notice that there are 2 different sides. So we've got a thick side and we've got a thin side. You can make however dark of a line you want to make. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to use the narrow one because that's the one that I tend to like better. And so just take the cap off, stick it on the end so you don't lose it. It's a tip from grammar school, right? Then this hole on this side of your maker is made for putting your pen in. So you're going to stick your pen in there and you're going to push it until you feel it kind of pop into place. Sure, Kim. It's been a while since I've done this part. All right, let's try that. And you'll notice that the numbers on the pen line are backwards from the numbers for your blade. They start at 0 down here. I beg your pardon. They start at about 2 inches down here, and they work their way up this way. So I'm going to go ahead and set this at 6. Let's try to make a 6-inch circle. So we're going to tighten that at 6. I'm going to just place it arbitrarily in the middle of my page and then push down with my pen. I'm not even hardly pushing really, actually. I did here, you can see there's a blob of ink because I pushed down with my pen, but I really don't need to push down. You are going to end up with a tiny little bit of extra ink though if you should stop for some reason, so keeping that in mind. But you can, so we can loosen this and make our circle bigger. Maybe, let's see, we made that one at a 6. Let's try maybe just like 1.5 inches bigger. And we'll offset it just a little bit. If you have different colored pens, you could make different colored lines. You could, you can make, so like, for a while there were several designs where people were, oh, see, I set it down and now my pen is traveling. Don't follow that example. If you're going to set it down with your pen in the hole, you have to be ready to draw, right? So I suppose the lesson there is to take your pen out each time. You can tell I haven't done this one very much. All right, let's try maybe a 10-inch one. You can go up to, well, let's try the biggest one we can do. We can go up to 11, almost 11.25 inches with this. And I'm just gonna roughly set it in the middle of my page since I didn't use my sticky note. Just make sure that you always hold down that pivot mark, the pivot point. It looks like maybe my pen is losing some ink because I've used it quite a bit here lately. But there is probably the biggest circle you can draw, nearly 12 by 12. And I should have had it centered just a little bit better. But you get the idea of some of the things that you can do. You could make a photo frame with this around your circle picture. Just put several different colors and offset them just slightly so that each color is represented. There's lots of fun things that you can do with this particular tool and being able to draw with it instead of just cut. All right, so I hope that this has helped you and that you will try this sticky note trick. Remember, the key here is corner to corner on a 3-inch Post-it note, and then 1.25 inches down. You need to make that line because that's the width from the pivot point to the front of your cutter. And if you have that marked on your paper, you'll be able to realign this every time and make perfect circles that all line up inside each other, just like these do. See? Perfect. Thanks so much for joining me. And if you have a circle cutter and you try this trick, I would love it if you could make a comment and let me know how it worked for you. I sure do hope that you get some good use out of it and enjoy it, and that it helps you to keep creating. Thanks so much. You have a great day.